education, she will say, you guys are talking something that I don't even want to be included in, don't even want to be listening to, or don't even want to be a part of because you don't understand my problems. She works with government schools. Her challenges are different, expectations are different, and her definition of education per se is different for her children. So, off to you, Marlia. You can be as scathing. Vasu, I think, set the tone for that to be absolutely honest about it. So, over to you.
No, I'm literally agreeing to her because I have all ears. Yes.
Hi.
Really, we want to know that.
Good to know there's one more person here that I can go in the corner and try with. But hi everybody, good afternoon, and thank you for making it on a Sunday. I think, 10 years ago when I started, when I picked up education as my sort of, calling, I was very naive, didn't understand the scale of the problem. Continue to work with Chennai, which is completely non-representative of education problems that are public schools being government schools face. And therefore, we ventured into rural India about 4 years ago and through Madi, my experience with Madi, and I think there was a culture shock of different kinds, right? So just to give you, I'm sorry, I'm going to throw some statistics. I know this is all about art and music and I'm bringing in something as boring as stats here. But the question you sent me was there has been a 300% increase in the kind of budgetary outlay that education has received in the last 10 years. Why aren't things changing, right? I think it's because we're spending those 300% increases on things that absolutely have no impact. What I mean by that is, for example, 85% of that increase has gone towards teacher salaries because you needed more teachers in the system, because you suddenly brought 14 crore children into the system and you needed that many more teachers. Fair enough. This year, the teacher training budget was reduced by 90% in the budget from 3 years ago. So right now it's 10% of what it was about 3 years ago in the budget. So anyway, just saying that, budgetary outlay has nothing to do, sadly doesn't have a correlation with outcomes. So I've come with sort of 5 things that I wanted to share and vent, because that's what I can do, if not anything else. The first thing is that we need to acknowledge and solve the right kind of problem, right? I mean, acknowledging itself, as a society, we are so scared of failure that even as states, we don't want to acknowledge that we have a problem. As a country, we don't want to acknowledge we have a problem, right? So, for example, 90% of our, and I know reading and math is just so rudimentary and basic that we're talking about 21st century skills, and here I am talking about the fact that 90% of our grade 3 children cannot read in their mother tongue and comprehend what they're reading. And grade 4 onwards is when you have the system is punishing, right? Because grade 4, the curricular jump is so high that if you've not mastered the basics in grade 3, there's no way that you're going to be able to catch up. You can catch up through, rote learning and mugging, but there's no way from a skill point of view that you will catch up, right? And our system is made to sort. It's not made to acknowledge in absolute terms what you have as skills. You are a first ranker out of 30 children, but what do you bring to the table as an individual child? Our report cards don't mention that, right? So that basically is that we end up focusing on, problems or acknowledging problems that don't necessarily need the kind of magnitude that they have. The second is, I think we need to learn from our mistakes and others' past mistakes from a public education point of view. We keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. We keep putting money in places that have had absolutely no returns. For example, there is a correlation between the fact that infrastructure has nothing to do with learning outcomes. Yes, you need toilets because you need, especially on enrollment of girl children, but making I'm sorry, I'm going to use the word smart classrooms and technology and computer labs in schools where there's this influx of money that's going in has absolutely no impact on the bottom 25% of your class. And countries that have made the biggest stride in terms of improving the overall education outcomes are the countries that have focused on their weakest children, the bottom 25. Whereas we want to show that our top are getting better, but not that our bottom is moving away from the bottom, right? And that is the problem I talk about. And third, do not prescribe for the poor what you wouldn't dare to prescribe for the rich, right? What I mean is there is this argument about English medium versus mother tongue medium. What else? The second one was vocational education, right? I was part of this committee that was trying to put a concept paper together for the Tamil Nadu government where they wanted to mandate vocational training from 9th standard because if they're not learning, at least go out with some skills, right? And parents are like, "Enga pasanga mattum enga carpenter plumber aganum. நீங்க engineer ஆவீங்க, doctor ஆவீங்க, எங்க பசங்க மட்டும் carpenter painter ஆகணுமா?" So, if we as a middle class can start proudly saying my son is a carpenter, I think that's when you will get the needle to move, right? Not by thrusting the idea of vocational education on the poor. The fourth message, or rather the fourth thing that I would like to vent about, is around, I think we need to be relentlessly optimistic, right? For various reasons. In the last 20 years, we've made strides in terms of enrollments that countries with comparable per capita income have simply not been able to do. So we've somehow managed to get crores of children into classrooms, and I have no reason to believe that the same cannot be achieved for quality of foundational education in India if we can put our heads together, acknowledge the right problem, and focus on solving it with the kind of contextual and relevant solutions that we can come up with. And I think, I'll summarize what I was trying to say, which is that before we prescribe something for the public education system, we're talking about 40,000 schools. Some countries in the world do not have half as many public schools. We're talking about 40,000 schools. You need to understand the sinews of the system before you can prescribe something, right? Sitting in Chennai thinking we've seen corporation schools and therefore we understand government school is not it. Do not prescribe anything unless you've spent a significant amount of time with the teachers, with the children, with the local community in Tiruvannamalai or I don't know, even Kadalur, before you prescribe what will work for the government school. And I think foundational learning, which is foundational literacy and numeracy, may be the least that we can do for our children, but it must be the first thing that we must address if we have to improve, I think, overall the quality of education.
Thank you, Maili. I think